more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work.
Welcome to another episode of Youth Ministries 6.3. Before we begin with a lesson from Philip Jenkins, just wanted to ask you to comment on these videos, in the little comment section right below here, to leave your comment, to rate it, and recommend it to someone. This isn't about me, it's not about money, it's not about anything other than helping youth ministers out in their vocation, in connecting to each other, connecting to God. And so I hope you like these. If you want to, shoot me an email, remckenzie11@hotmail.com, and let me know if you want someone to be on this, or if you want to be on this yourself and interview. Maybe you want me to interview, and so just holler at me. Go to my blog, robbiemckenzie.com, and share in the conversation. I hope you like these videos, and appreciate you so much if you're checking them out. Thank you so much for following and for joining in on the conversation. Enjoy another lesson, and you'll love to hear what Philip has to say. Take care. This is Robbie McKenzie, Youth Ministry 6.3. I'm here with Philip Jenkins. Philip's the youth minister at Mount Juliet Church of Christ. Truth be told, this is the second time I've interviewed Philip. Numero dos. Unfortunately, the first time we interviewed, the computer that is right there, I don't know if you can see it or not. Can you see it? Yeah, the computer right there crashed, and I've yet to get it fixed because I got a Mac, so I've been using that more. And so now, unfortunately, Mosey didn't recover all the files, which is probably more information I really need to say here. All that to say, Philip's been such a nice guy to interview again, and we're going to talk about the same stuff that we talked about, but you haven't heard it yet. So thank you so much for being with me, Philip. I appreciate you so much. The reason why I'm interviewing is the topic is unity, and it seems like he's always had, wherever he's been at Millview and Savannah Church of Christ, and then here now at Mount Juliet, it always seems like he's got a unified group, and it's a testament to him, but also a testament to God and some of the parents and folks that he's partnered with. So Philip, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you, buddy.
Hey, thank you, Robbie. I appreciate it.
No problem. We're going to get right into it. When it comes to unity, it's important not only in a youth group, in a church, in an organization, wherever you go, unity is important. But in our context, when it comes to youth groups and youth ministries, student ministries, why is unity so important?
Okay, first of all, I know that no one out there has heard all these jokes and one-liners and stuff. But to you, you've heard all of my stuff, so you have to laugh again at them.
I will.
Okay, thank you, just to be nice.
Absolutely.
I like the fact that you always have people on here that have like a specific reason why they're on here. I always wondered, if I ever did get lucky enough to get the call, what my thing would be that I would talk about. And I thought it might be like how to use Disney songs to communicate old principles.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. By the way, Philip's got this amazing YouTube video. Is it on YouTube? I think it's on YouTube.
Is.
Yeah. And so, what's the title of it again?
It's just. I think it's just called The Tabernacle. It's really good.
The Tabernacle to Under the Sea, right? Little Mermaid.
Yeah, it's to the tune of The Little Mermaid Under the Sea. It's really dumb, but thank you.
No, it's really amazing. Really amazing. Go ahead. Sorry, buddy.
Okay, that was fine. Why is unity in a youth group so important? Unity is important because it's all about the atmosphere that surrounds your group. In the book of Acts, the first thing we ever learn about the personality of the church is how united that they are. Mm-hmm. And so we read in Acts 2:42 through 44 or through 47 how much they love being together. I'll read it real quick. It says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayers. And awe came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all, as any had need. And day by day attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. And one of the things that we see that sets this group apart was their love for one another. And I love this. I know that we can't boil down the concept of the church. We can't boil it down to fun. But when we read the words in those verses, you can't help but just think, man, these people, they love being together. They just had fun. They were devoted to fellowship. They were filled with awe. They were together. They had all things in common. They were in each other's homes. They were glad and generous. They had hearts full of praise. They had favor in the sight of all people. And I hear those things, and I see smiles, and I hear laughter. They were united. They loved being together. And so if we want to be like these Christians that the Bible talks about, and if we want to have New Testament youth programs, unity is absolutely vital. It's supposed to be in the church's DNA. Absolutely.
I just did a sermon this past Sunday night, and we talked about rejoicing, and you know, that is how you draw kids together, is to have a certain essence of joy and rejoicing. You know, Paul said, rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. And there's just something about rejoicing that causes teenagers and youth groups and all that to just draw kids, draw them closer together. Speaking of that, what are some things that you have done, that your ministries have done to draw kids closer together, to unify kids, to bring them together?
And I didn't say this already, Robbie, but thank you very much for what you said at the beginning about the youth programs I've worked with. And it's definitely nothing that I've done, but it's something that I think the Lord does if we follow His lead and allow Him to work. But anyway, how do we draw the kids closer together? I think, first of all, I think this is very challenging because every youth group is different, and it's hard to just give like a one formula that's going to work for everywhere you go. Some are more outgoing than others, some youth groups. Some are large. Some have like 100 high school kids, and some are smaller and have 6 kids from the 6th to the 12th grade. Right. And so the question is, how do you draw those kids closer together? I think there are probably a lot of answers on things that we can do, and there are all kinds of, I guess, books and activities and things like that. But I think one of the tricks to unity, like the underlying principle to unity, is to blur social lines as much as possible. Let me kind of back up and I'll explain. I used this analogy with you the other day, but do you remember your high school lunchroom?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You look around and you can almost label the sections where people sat. You had the football guys table. In another corner, you had the popular girls table. You had the cheerleaders that all sat together. And another side, you had the people who were into drama. You had kind of the guys who did the video games all the time. And then and the guys in the corner who liked to play Magic the Gathering, who sat by themselves. Everywhere you look, though, you saw these boundaries, social lines. And you mentioned Millview. I worked at the Millview Church of Christ, and we had a group of about 35 kids, and they taught me about unity. And I think God gave me that group of kids to show me what a youth group should look like. And so here I am 4 years later, and I still find myself thinking about that youth group and about that unity and what it was that made that group of kids so special. And I'm sure that I'm not sure I've got all the time in the world to go into all the answers on what it was, but I think one of the things that made those kids really close was the fact that lines were blurred. Yep. They had this incredible attitude that I can't take credit for, but from the moment that I arrived, I was able to tell that there was something special about this group that I didn't create. That awkward, unathletic kid wasn't treated like an awkward, unathletic kid. That high schooler didn't treat middle schoolers like middle schoolers. Chelsea's little sister wasn't Chelsea's little sister. The schnozberries didn't taste like schnozberries. And it was pretty incredible because the kids that might have been labeled as weird weren't treated that way. They were treated kind of equally. People were patient with them. The other kids accepted them and loved them and hung out with them. And I'll get practical in a minute on some ways that we can do that. But I think the trick is to figure out how to blur social lines and transcend labels as much as possible.
Absolutely. And we talked about this in our youth groups. If you have, say, 30 kids, on the average you'll have anywhere between 50 and 60 parents, and then on that you'll have an average of probably about 100 grandparents, and so they're all different kinds of dynamics, all different kinds of relationships that you have to sort of sometimes mediate and sometimes blend, and it's great. Different is good. I love different, but having said that, though, how do you manage parents and students who are so completely different from each other?
You said it, man. Different is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a lot of weird parents out there,
Yep.
like you and I. That there are also a lot of weird kids out there, and so maybe there's a connection there too. But so
genetics, right?
yeah. And so you're right. The parents and the students are different. But what I found to be true over and over and over again is that students love adults who love them.
Absolutely.
And the way that you manage that, I guess, is just by letting them be them. And you'll have some quirky adults and you'll have some quirky kids. But going back to the different is good idea, another thing I think I would add is that the more personalities you involve, the better the chances of connecting with more students' personalities.
Sure. And
the more chances we have to get them connected relationally, the better their chances of staying connected spiritually.
Awesome. That's super. And also, I was just thinking, having sort of a common bond and a common interest helps parents and students unite together. But for me personally, also giving a parent the benefit of the doubt. There's so many times that I, as a youth minister, before, I call it pre-K, pre-kids, but before I had kids, I would be like, well, I can't believe parents would do that, or students would do that. I know I won't do that when I become a parent. And then lo and behold, here's Robbie 5 years later doing exactly what he said he wouldn't do. And so, just sometimes it's tough being a parent, it's just giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and this wasn't something I guess you asked me, but
right.
Or even the last time we interviewed, but,
right.
but man, as I know I'm like a super young parent and my kid's like 2 months old, but something that I think I guess you could say about a lot of parents is, man, they really care and they really want to do the right thing. Maybe some of them just don't know how to do that. Like
Sure.
They don't know how to help their kid who's like going through this really hard depression, or how to help this kid who's into drugs, or who's like, into stuff sexually. They want to help. They just don't know where to start. And and anyway, I think we've got to do, as youth ministers, I think you'd agree, we've got to figure out how to help these people. And I don't know how to help everybody, but to resource
Sure.
out to counselors or whoever that is, people who do know how to help.
Yep. Great stuff. When it comes to issues, barriers, stuff that hinders unity, there's a lot, I'm sure, that we could probably spend a whole talk just on barriers of unity. But you and I both don't like to dwell on the negative, but there are some barriers to unity. So in your experience, what are some of those barriers?
Really quickly, I think barriers to unity are mostly attitudinal, which by the way, it's the first time I think I've ever used that word, and I wasn't sure if it was a word. But anyway, I think almost every barrier to unity has to do with attitudes. You've heard stuff like this before, and it really gets on your nerves. Are the junior high kids going to be there?
Oh, man.
Or are there going to be middle school kids invited? I just never cared for that attitude. And I know that there are times when the groups need to be separated. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But that whole idea of looking down on others in the youth group is an attitude that I just don't care for.
Mm-hmm.
Excluding or ignoring others on purpose, that's when cliques happen. Nothing's wrong with a group having a tighter group within the group. Hello, Peter, James, and John.
Right.
But the problem happens when others are excluded on purpose. Hey, let's go to a movie. Well, we should invite Jessica. No, she's annoying. Don't invite her. And I think that fear is another barrier. If your youth group is full of cynics or jerks or just those people that kind of are mean-spirited, you're not going to have unity because everybody's going to be afraid of being called out or made fun of. And so kids will hide behind their fear, and so will adults, by the way.
Yeah.
And also I think you can add hypocrisy to that list, because it's going to be hard to have unity when the leaders in your youth group are the ones partying on the weekends and everybody else in the youth group knows it.
Right.
And you can't rally behind somebody like that. It's hard to get groups excited about being together if they don't respect or like each other.
Absolutely. And yeah, something that just hit me here recently, I think Kara Powell and someone else, but they got this book, and maybe you've heard of it, called like Sticky Faith or something like that. What they're doing, and it's kind of a no-brainer, but and you know, they're calling for what they call intergenerational youth ministry, a youth ministry that includes the church instead of kind of being, you know, like the one-eared, you know, Mickey Mouse thing. You know, it's a part of the church. And I love what you said, man, about not really liking the older being upset with the younger, because we're going to have to, once we graduate from the youth group and move on, we're going to have to learn how to be in a church with people who are in their 30s and their 40s and so on, and learn how to be Christians with each other, man. That's
a great point. And I don't want in God's plan in the church, you know, He doesn't want the youth group to hate the old people and the old people to hate the youth.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
You're right.
You alluded to earlier that you were going to get practical, and so what are some ideas that would help us, that you can share, that would help us bring our groups closer together?
Okay, I'll try to move quick on this. I think I was thinking about it. I think there are maybe three basic areas that we need to emphasize that I think will bring our youth groups closer together. I think there's activities, there's youth-led activities, and there's strong Bible teaching. Mm-hmm. As far as activities go, I won't belabor the point, but by listing like every single group event you could do to help your group gel, because you already know them, the retreats, the church camps, the trips, the games, and again, there are all kinds of books out there, resources, and all those activities you do in the summertime. They're all about Christian fellowship, and oh man, it's so simple, but a game like Ultimate Frisbee has just done wonders for youth groups everywhere, I guess, just because it's I could talk about that for an hour, but you know, I love Ultimate Frisbee just the way it includes everybody. So anyway, those are the you-led activities, or like a lot of times the youth minister plans those things. Things you planned, whether it took 5 minutes or 5 months. But the next area I think we need to emphasize are youth-led activities. One thing that I learned from Millview was something that they were doing before I got there, but I really think it was another one of those little things that made them so united. Every Sunday night after church, they went out to eat together. It was just a given. It didn't matter if the youth minister was going or who was going, they were going. The kids pulled it together, and everybody was invited. And so at Mount Juliet, I've done my best to copy that, and we've given it a name. We call it Yoda's. And so the kids say, hey, are you going to Yoda's? And it stands for Youth Outreach Dinners After Services. And the point of that is, all right, kids, you're supposed to reach out and look for those kids that, you know, maybe a lot of times they just go home right after church with their parents. But, you know, and it's something you have to reemphasize over and over again. Hey, the point of this is not just to go out to eat and have fun. It's to pull people in. But it has two purposes, just outreach and just to be together and fun. It always amazed me how much closer that people can get just by sharing a meal. That's where dating came from. And so, that and finding a potential mate. But anyway, I'm still brainstorming ways to get my students to do more student-led activities. I have this one idea that I haven't done yet called the State of the Youth Group Address. And it's a meeting that would be completely youth-driven. Mm-hmm. They would talk about the needs of the youth program as they see it. And I just think that would be a cool concept that I haven't tried out yet. But anyway, and the last thing that I think is important to your youth group being united is strong Bible teaching about unity. Mm-hmm. And mix up your classes too. Like maybe put your high school and middle school together for a quarter, and maybe in the fall or the summer, right when the new group moves up into the youth program, do something like that. But as far as what you teach, you let God tell them about the kind of unity and the kind of love that He expects of them. You let Him speak to them about His purpose for them. And Besides, if they figure out it's God talking instead of Philip or Robbie, it makes all the difference. And so I think too, and I guess I didn't really include this last time, but sometimes it's good just to have a class where everybody gets together, and maybe it's just your high school group or just your middle school group. We did this last Wednesday. We passed a candle around, and we kicked off starting in James, where it talks about confessing your sins and praying for one another that you may be healed. And we talked about, hey, a lot of times we don't have healing because we don't pray about things together and we don't talk about our struggles. And so we just passed a candle around, and it was kind of a no pressure thing. Hey, if you want to talk about something on your heart, that's what this is for. Sure. And it was a really moving class, and it was really cool. And you love this, and I love this. Whenever you get a kid that'll send you a text or a message that just says, hey, good class.
Oh, yeah.
And I got more out of that class than any other class I've ever done, and it didn't have anything to do with me. It was just like them talking to each other,
right?
And the Spirit of God in the room, working on the way we lifted those things up. But anyway, I do my best to do a lot of teaching about unity, topics like why everybody matters, about encouraging each other, not showing favoritism, about God's love for all, about seeing souls, Matthew 25, stuff like that. And finally, I do say, I asked them, if Jesus walked into our youth group, would anybody notice? Mm-hmm. Because if I understand Matthew 25 correctly, in a way, he does. And so I try to get our kids to be mindful of that idea.
That's awesome. Philip, hang on a little bit. This is another episode, Youth Ministry 6.3, Philip Jenkins from Mount Juliet Church of Christ. Thank you so much, Philip, for being on. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Robbie.